gents. Can you hear me? You guys, can we hear you?
G'day. Yes. Yep. I can hear you fine, Neil.
Awesome. Welcome along to everybody to the very first ever Hivello Town Hall. We're actually coming to you live from Da Nang in Vietnam. I hope this is the first of many more to come, and I think this is a great medium for our community to get a feel for what's going on inside the project and the minds of our leadership team. So with me today, I have 2/3 of the tripod of founder excellence that is our leadership team. So I would like to welcome Dom, our chairman and co-founder, and Justin, our CFO and co-founder. I'm Neil, the Hivello CMO, and we're going to talk about all things Hivello this evening. Today is obviously a huge day for the project, and in some respects, the culmination of years of work, I suppose. But in others, it's just the beginning of a journey that we're all on together. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. First, I would really like for our community to know a little bit more about the leadership behind Hivello. So, Dom, maybe we can go with you first, if that's okay. You're an inspirationally successful serial entrepreneur. That 5 times fast, with a massive track record of success. Could you tell our audience about how Hivello was dreamed up and where the idea came from, and I suppose how we got to where we are today?
Certainly, Neil, and g'day everyone. So I guess I started many years ago, out of the bedroom. I'm going to put up my hand and say I'm a nerd, loving new technology ever since I was a teenager, and basically built a number of companies in the space, listed them on both the Australian and Canadian stock exchanges. Got into crypto in 2013, just because I saw some big opportunities in the space. Launched a number of companies. The most notable is a company called Banksa. Banksa is one of the leading fiat on and off ramps in the space. In fact, second behind MoonPay from a transaction volume perspective, and that brought a lot of learnings around how to build a business catering to the retail, the Web 2 users out there. And it was only a natural transition to launch Hivello with Justin and Andrew as well, because we're big believers of DePIN and all things decentralization. And we saw how challenging it was to actually try and run and set up and manage DePINs, that we thought there's going to be a better way. And hence, that's basically why Hivello exists today. And I'm sure we'll do a double click on that in a moment. So over to you, Neil and Justin.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. That's great. Yeah, Justin, I'd love it if you could tell our audience a little bit about your background and what it was like in the early stages. I suppose of the generation or the genesis rather of Hivello. Maybe you could tell us what hooked you about the idea, and how you saw it when you kind of got to dreaming about it.
Sure. So the 3 co-founders have very diverse backgrounds. I'm a chartered accountant a long time ago, specializing in audit and risk consulting. So I often wear the conservative black hat in a conversation, try and be a safe pair of hands. And then after that, worked in corporate advisory and investment banking, focusing on startups and raising capital for startups. And also from Australia, born in South Africa, grew up in Australia, and been in Toronto the last 4 years. And my first deal with Dominic was raising capital for the Banksa IPO. And we've been having a ball working together ever since. And Dom invited me to work with Hivello and Blockmate, and I was attracted particularly. I mean, Dom and Andrew are so resilient and so creative that if something doesn't work, and this is the beauty of this field, if you have a great management team, you can pivot if they're masters of their craft. And the Hivello version we have today is a result of such pivoting. And so this version drew me in fully as it was as a software application rather than where Deepin began as a hardware play. This iteration, the genius of it is being an aggregation of other Deepins. So Neil, hopefully that's a starting point.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you for that. Yeah, maybe we could double click on that a little bit actually, because you're right. A lot of Deepin. Well, I mean, like it's literally in the name. There's a physical infrastructure piece, and I think the history is of, as you say, hardware devices. So maybe we could talk about how that makes Hivello different and why that's an important distinction, particularly in the light of banks and the learnings there, and how as software, onboarding Web 2, Web 3, all that kind of stuff. Would you like to speak to that, please, Tom?
Yeah. So, I mean, when Hivello first started, we got involved in Deepin through deploying helium miners across the European market, and we built some software that would work out where are the best places to locate that. But what we kind of learned about Deepin. It was a really good start. We understood how it related to blockchain, and it was a good opening. Let's call it getting to first base. But what we realized was, in order to really scale the business, we really needed to go back to our core, which was software, because we are at the core software nerds. And what we also realized was there are tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of computers, desktops, laptops, and Raspberry Pis that are just basically sitting out there, whether it's a computer that someone uses actively or one that they've got sitting in their bottom drawer. And so there with this whole concept of BYO, bring your own hardware. And so we basically decided that that's the area that we were going to focus on. We took the learnings from Helium and then applied them into Hivello, and we're now here where we are today with a software product that works across both Linux, Windows, and Mac, giving people an opportunity to run Deepins without having any technical knowledge. And I know Justin likes to say that think of Hivello as like the Airbnb for your computer. And for a lot of people, and I'm going to say for a lot of Web 2 people, when you tell them that, it's like, aha, I get it. Because when you talk to Web 2 people about Deepin, they don't really understand. But when you talk about the process of it's Airbnb for your computer, because most people around the world understand the concept of Airbnb, or you've got an asset and you're renting it out or you're leasing it out and you're earning income from it, it like clicks almost instantly. And I think that's a good analogy. Obviously, when you're talking to the Web3 audience, they kind of already get it. So it's a different kind of conversation. But once again, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this in a moment, is how do we bring more Web 2 people into Web 3, and how do we further educate people in Web 3 to really try and understand more deeply around what we're doing in the space and at that technical level without getting sort of too nerdy at this point.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because the application is actually incredibly powerful. I mean, sometimes when you speak to people, they get the idea of Deepin, they get the idea of an application being able to use an old laptop or use a gaming laptop when you're not using it and that kind of thing. But I think oftentimes that what gets missed is that just like with the Airbnb example, where you maybe you have a house that you're going to rent out, but maybe it's just a room. So for example, I'm running a node on my on my computer that I use all day long, and I just leave it running at night. When I'm using it for work and stuff like that, it doesn't impact the experience of using it at all, because it's using the idle resources, not the resources I want to use when I need to do something. So it's a very complex application with obviously many layers. We haven't even touched on AI. I think it's a good analogy. Justin, how do you see Hivello's capacity for social impact, and I suppose how does that mesh with like the way that we've tried to align incentives, and also maybe perhaps why many of us are so motivated to make Hivello such a massive success?
It's so multidimensional. I mean, even without it being Hivello, just the space of Deepin and the impact, the social impact that Deepin has by eliminating all of the fat within centralization and giving those margins back to the consumers. So that's without even Hivello, and then Hivello enabling and democratizing Deepin, making it accessible to people who don't even know that crypto exists. They just click on an application, download it to a PC, and start earning the rewards as a first step. That's one of the things that I'm so excited about, is that before that, if you wanted to get involved with crypto, you have a centralized exchange promoting to you and saying, send your fiat over and then start trading it, or buy this NFT, or on day one, there's an investment and they're a minus and hopeful that it's going to turn to a plus. So that's a first world game, and that's not going to get to the 100 million that we talk of. So we are so proud that Hivello enables people to turn up to the field without needing a ticket to play. Their ticket to play is a computer, which if they can't afford a computer, we're hoping over time to align with the World Bank and those schemes which deliver recycled computers to people that can't get them. So we see that happening obviously already, and we'd love to be a part of that. So that's just that first step. And then Hivello itself is, I like to think of it as a data center application for your home without you even needing to know what a data center is. And so with my investment background, I'm so excited that Hivello is like a Trojan horse into everybody's home, because every home is valuable in a Deepin world. In other worlds, there's economy of scale, and in Deepin, there's value in your location. And every home has a separate location, and every home hopefully has a piece of a device that we can monetize. And then we have other ideas. It's just never ending, whether it's staking or whether it's Deepin for work to earn, where they can do data labeling and earn $10 an hour through that. Hivello, we want to do all of the thinking for them, automate it for them, and just allow them to build their wealth in a passive or work to earn way.
Yeah, okay, that's amazing. So I suppose if we there's actually quite a lot of that I would love to unpack. I suppose first of all, like if we were to look at what the future looks like, you mentioned a number of things like monetization. So it would be great if we could talk about like how Hivello, what the revenue model is there, and what's in it essentially for the people who run nodes, Hivello nodes, or essentially, to put it in Web 2 speak, download an app that's as simple as Spotify to install and double click and it's good to go. So which of you would like to speak about the revenue model and how that all works? Because I think it's important to understand that there's no upfront costs, etc. So.
Yeah, I'm happy to touch on that. The philosophy was, when we started, just to try and make the application and the opportunity as accessible to anyone out there. All they needed to do was basically bring their own computer, their own hardware to the table. And so the app's free, and we just take a revenue share of the DeepIn tokens that are being mined. So it's in our interest to maximize the rewards for our customers as part of that process. Secondly, as customers are running the Hivello node, they earn points, and then those points can be converted into tokens. And I know we're going to talk about an airdrop, and I know this has been something that the community has been very interested and active about, and we can, I guess, talk a bit more about how that's going to work from a mechanical perspective. But this goes back to the concept of DeepIns using tokens as a way of cold starting their communities and their networks. We saw it with Helium. We see it with a whole bunch of other DeepIns out there, and Hivello's no different. And so, I'm definitely happy to sort of talk more about how that's going to work from a mechanical perspective moving forward.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I mean, look, seeing as we're talking about tokens, or we're going to talk about tokens, you brought up a couple of things there about the airdrop. We're going to get into that in a second as well. Actually, just before I ask another question to the guys, if any of our listeners, there's 355 of you online at the moment, if any of you would like to ask us a question, drop it into the live chat. It is being monitored, and if there's pertinent questions that we're not going to get to through our existing schedule, then I will pose those to the guys. So let's talk tokens. Today is obviously a massive day for us. Most of us haven't slept a lot in the last few days, which could be apparent in my own case. Why don't you tell us about the token and why it's an essential part of Hivello today, in the future, and some of the sort of big picture things that we kind of have in store on the roadmap.
Sure. So again, a wonderful byproduct of being in this space, to have additional levers such as a token that can reward miners for good behavior, for loyalty, for high quality mining, for referring friends, and many other ways to engage our community. So that's really exciting. And then also they can generate rewards, and then they can withdraw the rewards, or they can then stake their rewards for additional earning, which further perpetuates the strength of the token. And we hope to launch staking in the very near future, if not tomorrow. And we will continue to develop that functionality all the time, thereby building and strengthening the ecosystem. So that's the beauty of having an application with a token as part of this ecosystem. And our ecosystem consists of the DeepIn and the DeepIn protocols we work closely with to deliver a seamless solution to everybody, as well as the miners and the hardware out there, and any of the other components to that ecosystem. And having a token is very helpful for that.
Yeah,
100%.
I'm just going to add that there's a partly using the token as a reward mechanism, similar to what other DeepIns do. And at the same time, part of our thinking and strategy is to use the Hivello token as a way of, let me just sort of take a step back and try and explain the problem that we're solving and how we're going to use the Hivello token to do that. There are many DeepIns out there that require you to stake the native token in order to be able to run that DeepIn. And then you'll also need to have the native token of the layer one, whether it's Solana Arbitrum or any other chain. So you basically need to have 2 different types of tokens just to run one DPIN. You multiply that across hundreds of DPINs, and you're going to have multiple configurations. And our view is that's too complicated for most people. In fact, it's not just complicated for most people. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, even for tech people that are technically minded or nerdy like myself, where I'd like to do that. It just takes a lot of time. And so part of the value proposition of the Hivello token is that you stake it once, and then you're going to be able to get access to all of these DPIN, the universe of DPINs that require staking. And so you stake once, you get access to all of these DPINs without having to deal with them at the DPIN by DPIN layer. And so in that respect, it brings a whole bunch of utility to the community and to the actual business model. And so in my view, I think that just makes, from a pure common sense perspective, it actually makes a lot of common sense. And that's part of what we're planning to do with the Hivello token. Justin alluded to staking, and someone basically mentioned, is there a bit of an Easter egg? Yes, there is. Just watch this space, our Twitter and Discord over the next 24 to 48 hours. There will be something to do with regards to staking. I just won't say anything more other than watch this space.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I can personally attest to how hard our team have been working on the engineering side to get the staking thing ready to go. They're putting in crazy hours like the rest of the team at the moment. So it's a very, very committed place of work, I would say, right now. Okay. I suppose just in terms of the token, it's 20 past 10 p.m. our time, so we've been talking token all day, but for those who are just tuning in, maybe they're in the States, today was our TGE day. We launched our token, Hivello. It's currently available on Gate and MEXC. Tomorrow, I can't do the math, but at about 11 a.m. UTC, it's going live on Radium. We'll have a pool there. Please, just anybody who's on this call, please go into our Discord or look at our website. It's hivello.com/HVLO-token is the URL where you can find out. But if you just go to hivello.com, there'll be a link there, and you can jump over and find out all the official details, the contract address, and that kind of thing. There's just been a lot of, there's a lot of bad actors with every launch, and especially one that's had as much attention as ours has had. Just be careful out there, folks. But yeah, the token is now live on those 2 marketplaces, and it's the very, very start of a long journey, as I say. So let's just switch tack a little bit while we're talking about the token and talk about the airdrop. So for those of you who are not yet aware, we have been running essentially the app is in beta. So it's really quite good, but it's not as bulletproof as it will be when the engineering team can relax. So for now, we're in beta, and to reward our users, we are, we have essentially points that they can, anybody who runs the node can accrue, and at some point, those points will be convertible to Hivello. Dom, do you want to tell everybody about how that works mechanically? Because I know there's been a lot of questions from the community in recent times about that. And I think there was perhaps some confusion about the timing and things like that. So maybe you could speak to that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Certainly. So first of all, for all of those people that are using Hivello, you'll notice in the dashboard, you earn points. Those points will convert into the Hivello token at a specific point in time. Internally we've just spoken, and we think it's going to be towards the end of, and what we've said previously, towards the end of February, where we'll take a snapshot of the points and the users that we've got. We believe we're going to allocate 40 million Hivello tokens, so convert points into 40 million Hivello tokens. So depending upon, obviously, the more tokens you've got, the more Hivello tokens you'll basically earn. Exactly what that ratio looks like, we will announce that when we actually do it, or the 24 hours afterwards, because we need to collate all of the data. And then at that point, you will have an airdrop, and there'll be two ways. So we're not exactly certain exactly how we're going to airdrop those points. There are two options that we're currently exploring. One is directly through the Hivello application, because there's let's call it a custodial wallet built in, and you're going to be able to get it transferred into that and then stake it or transfer it to your non-custodial wallet. Or we may use a third-party platform like Magna to manage the actual airdrop. I think from a community perspective, it really doesn't matter which way we're going to go. I think the most important thing is there will be an airdrop, and we'll convert points into the Hivello token, and then have an ability for our community to transfer them to their non-custodial wallet, or if they choose to stake it and earn a yield. But I won't talk too much about that Easter egg right now.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Yeah. I think another thing just to know is I think our preference would be for the first option, which is one of the reasons why the airdrop is a number of weeks after the TGE. There are others as well, but that was one of the main ones. So okay. Maybe we could talk a little bit about the wallet, the custodial wallet, seeing as we're on it, and the thinking behind why, one of the ways in which Hivello is different. So obviously we're an aggregator of DPINs. In the future, hopefully we will aggregate every DPIN that's profitable, so that anybody anywhere in the world can just literally fire up their computer, and if DPIN X is more profitable to mine in Cambodia than in the Philippines or wherever, then that will be selected by our AI. But there's lots of other things, like how people can withdraw their rewards. Do you want to talk about that at all, Dom?
Yeah. So what I'm going to say is, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Part of the reason we're in beta is that it takes time to really build the core infrastructure, and I think our vision is I think we've got a really big vision. It's going to take time to execute. Where we are today is that we have a product that is able to generate tokens through mining various DPINs. We've got a points mechanism in place, and now what we're building out is the custodial wallet. And what that basically means is you've got your Hivello application, and your wallet will be connected. Your custodial wallet will be connected within Hivello. And then what you're going to be able to do as a consumer perspective is take those tokens, the DPIN tokens, maybe convert them into Hivello tokens, stake them. If you want to convert to stables or convert to fiat, you'll be able to do that as well. So we're just trying to build let's call it a mechanism that gives customers the flexibility, the community the flexibility. If I love DPIN tokens or specific DPIN tokens, I can just keep them. Or if I love the Hivello token, I can convert those DPINs into Hivello and then stake them. Or alternatively, if I've got some an electricity bill to pay, I can take all of those tokens, convert them into fiat, and get it transferred into my bank account. So that's where we want to go, and that's part of our vision. But we need to take steps in order to get there. So the next real step will be taking the points, converting them to the Hivello token, and then there's a couple of steps after that will be an ability for you to earn your DPIN tokens and then transfer them not just into your internal custodial wallet within the Hivello application, but also whether it's to Phantom or another wallet of your choice. In fact, we're also talking to some exchanges whereby we're going to connect Hivello and the exchange. So you don't even need to do anything. You just need to click a few buttons, and then it will be transferred automatically to your favorite exchange. So that's kind of part of the part of the thinking. Just want to sort of jump. There's a couple of questions while I'm sort of talking around. The requirements for the airdrop are just to run Hivello and earn points. And so the longer you run Hivello, the more uptime you have, you basically earn points. And right now it's quite linear. I think as we continue to build the product, we'll reward people for having their computer on, running longer. Instead of someone, so for example, just to give an example, if you've got a computer and you're opening and closing it all the time, you'll earn different points to someone who is running their computer 24/7 that has a 99.9% SLA or uptime. And the reason is because there are certain DPINs that will value that SLA more than someone that opens and closes your laptop. We can obviously cater for both. So right now it's quite linear in terms of the points. I think over time we will make that distinction purely because the DPINs that we're going to be running will be making that distinction. So hopefully that just gives you a little bit of flavor around where we're expecting to take the product over the next 12 months.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just on that and various DPINs being integrated, we had a pretty major integration happen on Friday last week. But because there's been so much work to do with the token and our TGE, it sort of got a little bit lost, I feel like, given the quality of our latest integration. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Nasana. Justin, do you want to talk about Nasana? I know Justin's been a big advocate of GPU mining just purely because that's where really the money is at this particular point in time. But over to you, Justin.
Nasana is a marketplace for GPUs, which is a very exciting initiative at a time when GPUs are the modern gold. They're expensive. They are obviously not always used. So if your GPU can be rented out when you're not using your GPU, that's a very exciting development in the sharing economy. We were very excited to have Nasana as our first high-yielding token. And again, it's complex for someone to run a node and set it up. Originally there was staking, now there's not staking. And so we're looking at that very closely. The current setup is that you, further to Dom's point about being having a high SLA, so you start as a community member, and if you prove yourself and your GPU, you then qualify for the premium Nasana premium market when you can access the high rewards. So we take all of that thinking on behalf of the users, and over time we'll be telling the market more about the expected returns for running an Nasana node on your GPU.
Yeah, and the plan is to continue to add. Internally we've set ourselves a goal of adding 50 DPINs. A number of those DPINs will be in the GPU space. And I think this is an area that we're going to be focusing more of our attention, partly because that's where the money is right now, specifically in the DPIN space. And I can do a double click if people want to know more. And it's typically much harder to set up a GPU DPIN than some of the other DPINs, like some of the CPU or some of the VPNs or some of the CDNs out there, and so we're taking away that complexity. For example, just to give you an example, Akash, to run an instance of Akash, you typically need to be running a Kubernetes instance, and most people don't even know what Kubernetes is, let alone how to actually set it up and run it. And so there's some of the things that we're trying to, some of the technical challenges we're trying to solve internally is to make that process really, really simple. And the reason we love the GPU space, there's a high dollar value in terms of potential income, and second of all, it's a growth market. with the growth of AI, and it's not stopping. If anything, it's accelerating day by day. That just then creates an even bigger demand for GPU hashes or GPU cycles. And Jack, it's called Kubernetes, not Kubawawa. I know sometimes this technical talk can actually sound like gibberish to most people, which is, once again, it just kind of really illustrates, and Jack, I love your humor. It kind of illustrates that's why Hivello's here. So you don't have to worry about Docker and Kubernetes and staking and crypto and gas. It's like click a few buttons and Hivello does the rest for you. Like that's why we're here. That's why we exist, for the community. So you don't have to think and go and get a PhD just to run a deep in.
Yeah, I mean that's just that's Dominant's superpower, is taking really complex things and making it super simple, so that like literally anybody can do it. Okay, I think we might take some questions. There's a good few questions rolling in, and actually we're now almost at 700 viewers, which is great. So Armida asks, what's the requirement to be eligible to receive the airdrop?
Dom covered that before.
Okay,
yeah, just
well,
running and earning points. Those points will then convert into Hivello tokens.
Righto. Let's see. Would love to know about potential ideas and strategies with Animoca, or just some hints. Jack.
So Animoca is our lead investor. They are a multi-billion-dollar company in the space. They really pioneered the play to earn that was quite big, particularly during COVID. And I think other than capital, I see them being able to open up many doors and many opportunities for us at Hivello. So they're absolutely a strategic investor and a strategic partner. I wouldn't want to sort of talk too much more about that until we're actually doing it with them.
But you did an AMA with them today.
Yep, we did one earlier today, which I think is on our Hivello Twitter, so on X. So you can go back and have a listen to that. And so I mean, we've got many partners, we've got a whole list of partners that we're going to obviously continue working with and sharing resources and ideas as well.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are really cool and so connected, and they have such massive communities as well. I mean, they've just got so many brands under that umbrella that it's sort of who you know, not what you know, to a certain extent. So yeah, they're great. It's great having them on board. 10x asks about our user growth. How many new users we're adding every month, and what measures we're taking to reach the 1 million deep in users, and our timeline for this. I could probably speak to some of that as the marketing guy. As I previously pointed out, we have got some great, really great partnerships, very high quality partnerships with companies with massive audiences who believe in what we're doing and who we are finding new synergies with to kind of sort of cross-pollinate our communities. So that's been great. We're also doing some local community outreaches to various local communities all over the world, and of course we have a full marketing go-to-market strategy and all that boring stuff, unless you work in marketing. In terms of users, Dom, do you want to speak to that? I think.
We've got over 17,000 nodes running to date, and that's growing. That's continuing to grow on literally a day-by-day basis, and I think over time we'll just sort of make those announcements as we continue to grow. I think I mentioned earlier on a previous AMA, on average, last time I checked earlier this morning, each user is running 1.8 nodes. So that tells me that there are people that are looking at Hivello more than just their machine, but they've also got it on their girlfriends, their sisters, their parents' house, their aunties and uncles, and kind of thinking about this as a mini business as opposed to a pure tech, a nerdy tech opportunity, and so I think that's just going to continue growing as we add more deep ins. And I know, just to cover maybe some of the key questions, our target is 50 deep ins by the end of this calendar year, by Christmas time. And I'm going to say it's as one of my mentors says, it's a big, fat, hairy, audacious goal. And if we've got to reach for the stars. And if we get it, I'll be super happy. If we get close, I'll be super happy. But I think in life and in business and in these kind of scenarios, we just need to have big, fat, hairy, audacious goals. So, I think that's, super important for us. And then letting our AI agent, and we've made some steps towards that. Without, once again, getting too geeky, we've built a data cube. We're collecting all of this primary data, and then, ultimately using the AI agent to personalize the deep ins that are running on each person's machine. So in that respect, we're basically just trying to make it easy and just using AI to optimize. And one of the other questions, sorry, I'm just jumping in terms of questions, and I'll sort of hand it over to you, back to Neil. In terms of exchange listing, so today we went on to Gate and MEXC exchanges. Tomorrow we're on Radium, which is one of the leading Solana dexes. And the answer is we have a stream of new exchanges that we've already been talking to. And since TGE, we've got other exchanges that have actually reached out to us as well. So absolutely, over the next 12 months, there will be more exchange listings for Hivello, which basically opens up the opportunity even further.
Okay, great. Do you want to just keep going, and I'll flash up the questions as you answer them?
While Dom's looking, another benefit of this relationship between the application and the token is that as we go onto more exchanges, as more people learn about the token, every speculator, every trader is encouraged to download the application, and similarly, every miner or user with a laptop or desktop that downloads the application is encouraged to look at the charts and see opportunities to get involved with the token. And so it's a very synergistic relationship between the two communities.
Yeah. And I think, so some questions around, what's the potential? And I think the answer is, that's difficult to give anyone an exact number of what's the potential earnings moving forward. I think DeepIn as a industry is still quite embryonic. And my personal view is, there's the chicken and the egg in terms of the industry. In my view, the egg comes first, and the egg is what I call the supply side, the millions of computers around the world that are running various DeepIns and building out these decentralized networks. And then the chicken in this example is the demand. Businesses, companies wanting to use the services of these particular DeepIns. And I think the supply side needs to come before companies feel comfortable that in order for them to be able to want to use decentralized storage or CDNs or VPNs or GPU mining. And actually, I can do a double click on the GPU space, because there's actually a real commercial reason why a lot of companies are starting to move into the GPU space or use decentralized GPU compute. And that's because it is materially cheaper. So it's much cheaper to use that, because if you go and buy an NVIDIA graphics card for about $1,000, the same enterprise version from an output perspective costs about 10 times as much. And that's because it comes in a nice fancy rack. It comes with nice management software, but that's how NVIDIA operates. So if you're a consumer, it costs you basically here. If you're a business for the same output, it costs you here. So AI companies have realized that using decentralized infrastructure is actually 80 to 90% cheaper, which goes back to my first point. This is where the real money is in the deep-in space today. And this is why, Hivello is just integrated in Asana. It's looking at the other GPU deep-ins as well. And the objective ultimately is to have all the major deep-ins, AI space and other, and then letting the AI agent determine what are the best ones to run on your machine to maximize that ROI.
Awesome. I know we kind of answered this question before, but it's kind of phrased in a different way that is interesting from my perspective, because I think it's lowering the cognitive load. The cognitive load, to use that term, is definitely a barrier to entry for a lot of people in Web3. I suppose the way that I would like to ask the question is in like what ways do we, in what ways is that part of our ethos to make it super, super simple? Like, what are the things that we're doing that make Hivello completely unique in the space?
I think the fact that you can download the software, the Hivello software from our website, and register with an email address and be up and mining and earning in 10 minutes. In fact, that whole process depends how quick your connection is to download. You could literally be up and running in 2 minutes.
Yeah, 90 seconds.
And you don't have to worry about private keys, gas, or anything to do with crypto. All of that happens in the background. And I think that, and Alana, your question, I think, is absolutely spot on. And that's, to a degree, why we exist as an organization, is that we want to take all that crypto complexity away from the consumer. Because ultimately what that does is will actually help attract Web 2 users into Web 3. And the reason why I believe that is important is we need millions. In fact, we need tens of millions of computers that are running decentralized networks to ultimately build, scalable and much more, resistant and decentralized networks. And so we can't just rely on people in the Web3 space, even though I'd love to say that as a fact, but I think we need to bring in Web2 users, because ultimately we need to have a much more wider network, which means it's more robust, and that will then attract companies or businesses to actually use the decentralized networks. So once again, it's the sort of chicken and the egg type scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Dom. Okay, I think we've kind of run to the end of the questions. There was an additional comment by Jack about earnings, but I think we dealt with that already. It's very early stage, and that's part of the reason we have our token running like alongside the deep-in earnings that users can earn from other deep-in projects. It's an evolving thing as well. I think once we've got once we have a couple of hundred different deep-in networks on there that for the AI and the data to kind of choose to optimize essentially based on the hardware spec and location, geography, etc. That's going to be a very different reality. I suppose the question could be asked in a slightly different way. Like, what are your opinions, Tom and Justin, on like what is the potential of earning with Hivello? I don't mean today or tomorrow. Obviously, it's a long road. It's a marathon, not a sprint, as you said, Tom. But like in 4 years, what would you see as being possible for somebody? And I know it's kind of a very forward-looking and bit like how long is a piece of string. But do you have any?
It is. If you were asking me to just take a rough guess, a guesstimate of where I think it can be in the future, I think on let's call it and it's partly based upon the computer your specs and the countries that you're in as well. So I think that there is some nuances around that. But if you are asking me for a range, I'm going to say from $20 to $200 or $300. And a $20 would be a low spec machine $200 to $300 would be a gamer with a hardcore NVIDIA graphics card that's basically churning away training AI models. So that, I think, is ultimately the range. The wild card in this is, what are the deep in token prices? Because let's not forget that part of the revenue, and obviously on the Hivello dashboard, you see USDT, you see the USDT price, which is basically a conversion of the deep in token value to USD, because it's so much easier to use that one metric as opposed to try and calculate what the price is of every token, because that all moves. But, if we work on the basis that over the next 4 or 5 years, the crypto market's going to grow, the value of tokens is actually going to grow, you can argue that can actually expand over time. And different people, once again, will take a different view, and we're not here to provide financial advice. Should you take your deep in tokens and sell them or stake them or convert them to stable or the Hivello token? That's not what we're here for. It's ultimately giving people the platform and giving them the information for them to be able to make decisions themselves.
Yeah. Cool. Amazing. Yeah, I think, obviously it depends on where you live, but for somebody in certain countries in the world, $300 is a life-changing, certainly a reality-changing amount of money to be earning each month for doing literally no more than running an application on your computer and leaving the computer running all day long. So can't wait for those days to roll around. I think we've kind of reached the end of the questions, and I feel like this has been a very informative session. Derek, we talked about airdrops earlier on in the live stream. This is recorded, so we will, it'll be on YouTube. It'll be on all of our accounts, basically, and we'll probably ask somebody to chop up the most important parts so that we can have smaller videos for shorts and things like that, more digestible chunks of information. But it's been an absolute pleasure, gents. Again, today was our TGE. Hivello token is now live. You can get it on MEXC and Gate.io, or you can download the Hivello app and earn it, by running nodes. Just before we wrap up, is there any final comments? Any last words you would like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I'm just seeing some of the comments coming through from Jack in regards to some of the marketing messages, and I think different marketing messages will appeal to different people. Some are interested in the technology aspect. This is new technology. You're building new decentralized networks, which ultimately go back to the core or the ethos of the internet when it first started. Another message that I see on the screen is a tangible contribution towards fighting big tech, which inherently is centralized and controlling with a few mouse clicks. And that, I think, will appeal to a different audience. Or there'll be another segment of the audience is make money while you sleep. Have your computer running and just earning passive income, making money while you sleep. So I think the key marketing messages will differ according to the person that we're talking to, because we're all humans, we're all different, we all respond to different things, because that's just the way that life and business operates. And so I think it's one of those things that we're going to have to learn about who are the different segments in terms of customer bases. But one of the things that I really love about what we're doing at Hivello is really the community. And I love the active community on Discord, and I think that's just so positive. Whether it's good comments or bad comments, to me, it doesn't really bother me. I think people are engaged, and that's more important than really anything else at this point, particularly as we're still at such the embryonic stages of building the business and building Hivello.
And I'll jump on exactly that about the embryonic stage. When you ask about earnings, Deepin didn't exist, in its current form until, let's say, or certainly
about 2 years ago.
2 years ago, and Helium became the world's fastest wireless rollout with 1 million nodes within 12 months. And in that environment, it wasn't a marketplace like Nosana where if they're not running an AI job, you don't get paid. With Helium, they raised a lot of money and they were able to pay for the railway tracks that is like Hivello. And so we've built this to last the ages. This platform is here to stay. And in 2 years, we've seen a proliferation of DPINs in lots of different types and categories and earnings and revenue models. And the beauty of this iteration of Hivello is that we're able to, through your bring your own device, and through our users not having to come up with this $500 to buy a hotspot or some type of device, we are able to straddle the whole DPIN portfolio and pick and choose what's going to deliver the best return. And in terms of projecting rewards, we're very conservative. We like to talk about what we can see here and now, but in the luxury of a town hall where we can dream, and what's going to happen in 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, whether DPINs are going to pay for the railway tracks because they've raised money from VC. That is X factor. Whether GPUs are going to continue to be hen's teeth, and the rates and the need to use a Web3 marketplace rather than a Web2 marketplace to access those GPUs would play into Hivello's hands. Our additional iterations, whether it's work to earn or whether it's staking, there are so many different ways that we can add value to each person's valuable home. So that's a key message to let everyone know, picking up on Dom's last statement, is that we're literally just at the beginning, and yet we're already generating revenue, and the sky's the limit going forward.
Yeah, and I'd like to just double click into something that Dom said as well, which is about feedback and the good comments and the bad comments in the community, and the community being engaged. I believe feedback is a gift. So when there's bad comments, I think that's the greatest opportunity for us to learn. It's not always something that we necessarily are going to agree with, because we have a different perspective. Maybe we know something that the person offering the feedback doesn't know, or maybe the person offering the feedback, is seeing something that we don't have the perspective to be able to see. So I am always super grateful for feedback, even when it's difficult to read. The team and community escalate everything that's anyway bad. So we all, we're actually close to you guys in the community. When you say stuff, it reaches all the way to the top. So just to let you know that, it's very valued, and we're grateful, even when it's hard to hear. Yeah. We are actually almost at 1,000 people watching at the moment, which is amazing.
Fantastic.
For our very first town hall.
I just wanted to jump. Panita asks a question. I just want to sort of touch on this because I know it was asked before, and maybe it's just worth reiterating. What would be the points ratio, the point to Hivello token ratio? What we mentioned earlier was that we're going to, for this airdrop at the end of this month, roughly at the end of the month, there'll be 40 million Hivello tokens allocated. And exactly what that points ratio will be, we'll only know when we basically put a line in the sand to say, this is the number of nodes, this is basically the number of points, and then we will communicate that to everyone at that point. And then, as we also said, is how that gets delivered from an airdrop perspective. Is it done within the app, or we use a third-party platform like Magna? We're not sure yet, but we'll obviously let the community know. But in terms of answering the question, there'll be 40 million points, as our first airdrop, and then after that, that will continue to grow. And when I say grow, the number of points, and then hopefully the number of Hivello tokens as well. But that's something for Neil and the team to come up with some of those strategies and those numbers. Yeah,
I mean, look, it's the airdrop and the points. airdrop Hivello tokens is actually fairly simple. Like pretty much everything we try to do here at Hivello. Download the app, run your node 24/7 from now until the snapshot happens, and that will maximize your chances of getting as many of the tokens that we're going to distribute as possible. So yeah, maybe that's a good spot to wrap things up, guys. Are you good? Will we call it a day?
Yeah.
Until the next time.
Yeah, we're all good.
We'll do this again, though, right? We'll do this again.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Well, on that happy note, thank you everybody for tuning in. I kind of almost want to stay on just to see the number go from 951 to 1,000, but that's a bit of a vanity metric. Next time we will, I'm sure we'll be able to get a personal best on it. Thanks everybody for tuning in on this really, really important day for us at Hivello with the launch of our token. Not to sound like a broken record, but if you want to pick up a bag, you can get it on Gate and MEXC, and the link to do that is on our website, hivello.com. Otherwise, come join us in Discord or Telegram or on X. Download the app, give it a spin for yourself if you haven't tried it already. It's very early days. You're not going to make $1 million in the first month, but it is a marathon, not a sprint, to requote Dom. And I think the future is very, very bright for Hivello. So thanks everybody, and until next time, be safe.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.